everyone, it's Stephanie again, and
I'm here. I'm in this piece.
He is here. I have been promising you guys for 2 weeks now. This is my handsome husband, Edmund, for those who don't know. For the guys who know, welcome back to what everybody likes to call you, the People's Champ.
I made that name and it stuck because it's true. True stuff sticks.
All right, well, before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, let's jump in. We are talking about Married at First Sight, season 14, episode, I think it's 8, guys. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it's 8. We are back in Boston. You have not been on this season yet.
Not at all.
So just high level, just what do you think about Boston Revisited?
Train wreck.
Okay.
Locomotive wreck. No, it's some goodness in there, but it's more spice than anything else right about now.
I agree. All right, so let's kick it off with our first couple. Who do we want to talk about? Let's talk about Katina and Olajuwon.
Cool, cool. That's a good start.
Okay, so I will say this week with Katina and Olajuwon, this episode they did more like family and friends, where they came over, they have their standard like housewarming party, and they kind of break off with each other's spouse and each other's friends to get the lowdown on what's going on, to get a little bit of hazing if needs to be, if you're not doing the best job, which Katina's friends did do a good job of that. And then they kind of talk about whatever. It's like a good time to meet the family again, but in a more calm setting, comfortable. I've now seen you. We've been married for a couple of weeks, yada, yada. Katina and Olajuwon, I don't know. What do you think about them? I don't even know.
Well, number one, I will say with Olajuwon, you know, and this is stuff that I said prior to stuff coming out. Like when I first saw him, I was like, I want to know about his first relationship. I want to know I won't say most, many guys that are players or that don't settle down, there's a fear there. Yeah. And I told him they're not going to have sex early because he's good at performing. He performed at the wedding, he performed sexually, he performed as Isaac, he's good at the dance. But when it comes to being vulnerable and being intimate and actually loving or open up to where you can get hurt, he's hesitant. He's very slow. Yeah. That's why he's dated so many people, because right when he gets to the point of having to really care, he dips and goes to the next person because he doesn't have to get past surface. So I don't know where that comes from, but I would love to know. And so if you're ever dealing with a guy like that, ask him, what was your first relationship like? What was your first like? When were you hurt? I feel like it might have been something there where he's either hurt or somebody that he really wanted didn't want him or something. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah. So Olajuwon and Katina, this episode, they kind of got together with family and friends, of course, as they all did. But Katina's friends are not really trustworthy or trusting of Olajuwon. And they have good reason. I mean, his energy kind of gives you like he's coming up with something or he's trying to talk fast, so that he doesn't really tell the truth on himself. And I said this last week where I felt like he really needs to be, and I really like his friend, he really needs like a good male mentor that he respects, that he trusts, so that if he is in it for real, that he can be kind of like pruned a little bit. Like, here's what you need to do, here's what you shouldn't do, here, and he can hear it because it's from somebody he respects. Katina, there was an incident with them where they were talking about their dynamic, and Katina was talking to his friend about how he kind of gets upset, and she's seen those things. And I think that's really, really important when you are going to be with someone long term. Marriage, let's just talk about marriage. It's important to see people at their different phases in life because they can become very different, and you want to make sure that that person isn't dangerous to you or a threat to you or disrespectful. And so I think seeing someone in anger is really important. What I did not like and what felt for me very unsafe was Katina's need to avoid him almost and pacify him when he gets really upset, which is like, my thought when I was watching that was, can he not control himself? Has he ever done something that he regrets? Because his friend is telling her, yeah, just, ignore him, like just he'll come back, he rethinks it. And she's like, yeah, I've kind of just, I okay him. And my thing is, That is not acceptable behavior. For me, that sounds like abusive. Not that he's abusive, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that sounds abusive to where you have to like pacify him and avoid, because if it does get exacerbated, he can't control himself. And I get, we all have times when our spouse is maybe not in a good space and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to leave it alone because saying anything is not going to make it better. But that shouldn't be every interaction. So what would you say for him to learn how to control that temper or learn how to manage that? Because it's like, this is him, and you know, Olajuwon's like this, and so she kind of has to deal. A lifetime of that is not, it's not going to be a pleasant one.
Well, number one, as you know, I mean, you haven't experienced it, but long ago I had a temper, right? And it was just a lot of anger. So what I would want to know is when I see a person that maybe has a really, really close relationship with his mom, but maybe not his dad, or somebody's been coddled, and it's been okay to lash out because that male energy wasn't there to course correct and kind of put him in his place. Right. And I think all he needs, like you said, is a strong male figure. That's all I think he needs to become somebody that is married, or somebody that can show him this is how you become married. So the advice I would give him is, first of all, find out where is that control coming from. Right. Where is that lack of control coming from? Where is that anger, or to be the push your wife to be this? Where is that hierarchy coming from? Right. And explore where that started. Yeah. And then also look at it that you lashing out, I believe part of it is for attention. He likes attention. Obviously, he's done it. But where's that coming from? A lot of people that like attention didn't get it from one of their parents. So I really don't think they went deep. And I don't know in the season if they're going to go there. But like you said, you know, we haven't seen much of his parents or mentioned at all. Yeah. And now that we know that he's biracial, you were saying that that it's probably, what was your thoughts on that when you found out that part of it?
So okay, this is a good segue into saying what was kind of jarring. Like, that's the first black woman he's ever been with, or he hasn't really dated black women. He's messed around with them. You know, a lot of times we end up like seeking our parents. So I wouldn't be surprised if the part of him that was Irish was his mom. And therefore, those are the women that he has dated or found himself attracted to, or whatever the case may be. That did give me like a little bit of, wait a minute, you know, what are you doing here? And why is that? Let's get into that. Is there a preference that leads to, you know, self-hate, or something that you can project onto her or onto her kids? Or is there a reason for that? That's the only thing that really like made me give pause. And it bothered me a little bit that Katina I felt like she kind of made excuses about it, like almost over explaining for him. And somebody with that type of personality who almost can't be controlled when they get upset, she's going to find herself doing that all the time, where people are kind of pointing out, you want to look at this, especially at the beginning when you don't know that person. And for her to say, well, he's half Irish. Well, you look at Olajuwon, he looks black. Yeah, like,
I'm part Irish.
Right. So. Yeah, you look black. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, they're not that. I don't want her to get into, and this is why a third party is so important, especially with these couples, because they can kind of like finesse these nuances and really get to the meat of it, so that they can build on like a stronger foundation, not this like hoping that it becomes XYZ. So.
Well, we're going to move on to the next one, but I would just say for her, if I were like her brother or father or whatever, she has to learn to listen without being defensive. She likes to defend and protect immediately sometimes, when she has to have a response. Right. Sometimes the best response is no response. Yeah. Just take in what your friends are saying, because what happens is her friends they're going to tighten up, and they're going to retract some of the knowledge that they will give, because it's just going to get hit with a rebuttal. Right. When it might be like, you know what? I'll keep an eye on that. And then the last thing is, his friend was like, man, that was a shock that he wants to wait. I wasn't shocked at all. I said it from day one, he's not going to want to, because he's now having to learn how to be intimate and be fully present and be vulnerable, and he doesn't want to get hurt. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think it's bad that they're waiting, and I think that they should wait. If you've been doing something in a particular way and it hasn't worked, doing something the opposite way might be the better option. Such a double standard. Yeah, it's like, oh, they married. If it was the woman, come on, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, women are...
He can hide the pickle if he wants to hide the pickle.
Y'all usually swinging around like an elephant trunk. So
listen,
we're not
pickle
used...
pickle is sacred. He has the sacred
They are not...
pickle.
Women naturally are not used to being the one to be like, hello, where's that, pull the
Isaac
mic out.
was slinging pickle.
Pull
this
the mic
guy
out.
is reserved.
I'm glad he's doing that, though.
It's good.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure out who he is without sex.
Exactly. All right, so that's Katina and O. All right, next we have Lindsey and Mark.
Mark the Shark. I love saying that. Mark the Shark, Mark the Shark.
I feel bad for Mark the Shark.
Mark.
I do. Because, here's another example of why it's so important to see someone when they are angry. Because how you treat me when you're angry, and not always, let's be real. Every now and then somebody might be angry, they say something that they don't want to say. But for the most part, how you consistently get, especially at the very beginning, they haven't had many interactions or altercations. Mm-hmm. How you treat me when you are angry is more true and authentic to who you are than the facade when things are going great. It's like everything's great on the honeymoon. They're making our beds. We don't have to think about food. When we get home, what does that dynamic look like? Mm-hmm. Lindsey getting so upset that Mark is kind of setting the boundary of saying, listen, you've already engaged, and I'm going to the end with this when they're at the bowling alley. But that's the thing for Lindsey and Mark for me this week. You're already upset. You've already had this interaction. Let's pull back. Like, you don't have to engage. You don't have to prompt someone. You don't have to do these things. Him saying, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like when you do that. It's uncomfortable that I have to jump in there. And her not knowing how to be redirected and getting so nasty.
Yeah.
Y'all know I already have an issue with her. Like, she showed out on the plane. I don't like how she victimizes herself when she can be somewhat of an antagonist. But her getting so nasty and talking about what he did and how much he made and his roach apartment. It's like, sometimes you don't have to say anything. And people, if you're true and authentic in how you're supporting someone, they know. They know that you were supportive. You don't have to kind of throw it in their face. If you sling it in their face, it was like contingent. I'm doing this and you need to love me back, or you need to do this. Guess what? I'm going to say, next time you say, I'll help you. No, thank you. And I'm not going to say it that nicely. Her character is really... The way that she showed out really calls into question her character in this. She's such a loving and sweet person and deep down a nurturer. She has a lot of issues, and she is literally reflecting all of the warnings that everybody gave, like her dad and her brother and their friends. Everybody laughed about it and, oh, that's Lindsey. That's the problem, that everyone has said, that's Lindsey. But, there's a saying, love it or leave it. Your friends and your family, they just love it. They might love it from a distance, but they'll love it. Your spouse can leave it. Yeah. And he said it many times, she is taking away the opportunity for true connection with how she's behaving. And it's deplorable. It's like there's so much you could say about her, but when she was being so nasty and, just give me an orgasm, at least do that. It's like she was looking for every low blow that she could find, and she was just slinging them out. So I don't, they're not going to last, because she is not ready for this process. She's not ready for anybody, really, because she really needs to do some of that inner work in order to be someone who can engage in a dialogue that isn't comfortable and not get nasty about it. Because there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations in marriage, and you cannot, there's some stuff you can't take back when you say. So, they're not going to make it, but... What do you think?
Well, two things. One, we talk about this all the time, but some of these people have maybe never heard us. One, we talk about rules of being married.
Yeah, rules of engagement. Yeah.
And one is no low blows.
Yeah.
Unless it's the good low blow.
Oh my God.
But
you think PG, man.
If they're PG, they don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, no, but the belittling, those are when you go below the belt. Mm-hmm. Your spouse is always going to remember that. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most damaging things to a relationship when you start talking about sexual performance, sexual body parts, income, finances, the ability to provide, the ability to reproduce. the ability, all these things, these are too low of and this is just like universal. It's not even like a list, but everybody kind of knows when you're going below the belt.
Right.
And if not, you need to establish that because it is dangerous. And it's the whole hurt people. Yeah. So when you act up, when you're offended, when you're upset, you're going to try to destroy me, not only publicly, but privately and on TV. Like, this is, to me, that was the end of the marriage right there. I mean, as a man, you start talking about his ability to provide and in sexual, our egos are more fragile than anybody's.
Yeah.
And it's tough to come back from that. Number two, and you know how I feel about this. I'm not going to go too far into this, but I will say some of just the human desires is to dominate others or to avoid being dominated. And a lot of people, when they give to dominate. They look at it like it's better to give than receive. So everybody doesn't feel this way, but I'm better than you if I give. Mm-hmm. And so therefore I'm one-upped on you. So now you owe me. There's a giver's debt right there. Mm-hmm. To me, that's not true philanthropy. That's not true giving. It's giving expecting nothing in return. Mm-hmm. I'm not hanging it over your head because what happens is now I don't want you to give anymore. Like you said earlier, I don't want to receive from you because there's a catch. I can't say my piece. I can't have an issue with you. Yeah. I can't say we're not team players. You weren't a team player right then and that night. And I told you earlier, I didn't think it was bed bugs. I was like, roaches. Yeah. But anyway, and that's where the cats and all that. I do understand there's probably more to the story. But at the end of the day, Mark has to also, I get the whole avoiding conflict in a sense, but you got the only way out is through. Mm-hmm. So if she gonna deal with that, you got to deal with it. Yeah. You can't progress without progressing. So
that's good.
Man, I'm on one tonight.
All right. Next we have Jasmina and Michael. So the first thing that pops up for me, because they started over, fresh leaf, they felt like Pastor Cal, they both said Pastor Cal gave them like a really good reset. And so they started over. The thing that pops up for me with this week's episode is Jasmina meeting with her friend. And how her friend held her accountable and was talking about how she doesn't often admit that she's wrong. And she says, yes, she does. Yes, I do. No, I don't. And then she says, I'm not wrong often. Jasmina, sweetheart, you got some stuff going on. You've never had a real in-person local relationship. And the relationships, for some reason, don't make it. And I don't think necessarily that it's all just because of long distance. Because we're starting to see, like, she has such a beautiful surface. And so she's a strong woman. She's confident. She says what she needs. So it's hard to it's hard to see at first glance what's going on with her. And she's pretty like curated and kind of tight. And now we're starting to see from someone who's known her. She's like, I've been your friend for 4 years. And I love that friend who's like, I'm going to say it with love, but like, you're not perfect. Like you're wrong sometimes and you struggle with saying that. And that is a problem. And that's going to be a problem in your marriage.
Absolutely. Somebody's wrong every week.
Yeah. So yeah. And it could be very minute things too. It's not always like the big stuff. A lot of marriage is like the minutia of like the little things. So if you're never wrong or you're rarely wrong, that's just going to be a problem. I don't know that I see like a true connection with them. Or spark. I don't see a spark. I don't feel like Jasmina is super attracted to him. I like the dynamic with his sisters and her, like they're welcoming to her. And I think she wants to be welcomed by them. I think she's going to give it a chance. For me, this couple, it's going to really be about personality. Like if their personalities don't really connect and they like find things that they are passionate about and like enjoy spending time together and like getting to know each other, it's gonna be like a dead end. And I think Michael is I don't know, we haven't seen that fun, lively side of him that he says he has. We see this very like tight, uncomfortable, and that could be partially her fault too, the discomfort, but we don't see him diving in. He's not ever super, I don't know, talkative or lively, or he only had his sister come, like none of his other friends. Do you have friends? Like not even joking, but like I don't know. I don't remember even a bunch of people at the wedding. So I don't know.
Didn't have it. I just be honest. I think this couple is an example of what can happen when you don't have emotional intelligence inside of a relationship. So what I mean by that is, number one, when you if you have lost parents and people that young and you haven't had any therapy and work through it, you're not ready for a long-term relationship. You're not ready for marriage because you don't even know who you really are. It's kind of like if you have a physical ailment but you haven't done anything about it and you think it's just going to heal. It's not. So even when you're dating and somebody says, hey, this, and this, the next question, she wasn't fully present for him. And that's what a wife, your spouse has to be that. When you're not even doing it for yourself, tell, I know that must be. Have some more empathy. And then, have you seen anybody about that? Like, well, let's not even get further because he doesn't have a mom to have his first love of admiration of a mom to then look for that in the next person. So there's a lot to that. So I think the levels of emotional intelligence that he needs to really fully be present is too much for this show. I really do. I feel like I think he can be a great guy and a great husband, but they're going to need a lot of therapy to get through it. Also, I think that his when he's being, like us, we have a rule about tone. So tone and yelling are two different things. And I think he was really pushing back on the yelling because he doesn't want to be seen as abusive.
Right.
And I think he probably did have a louder tone. Right. And that needs to be discussed for a boundary. Number two is his lack of awareness of the two women that you live with and it's like, okay, let's give him a benefit of the doubt. We shouldn't, but let's just say we did. I'm just saying for sake of conversation. And let's say you said, oh, well, we didn't live together because they were roommates. I wouldn't either. That's, bro, you know better. But let's just say it was a mistake. The double downing on it and saying, oh, well, what do you think from that? Bro, you can't do that. Like, you just own it, man up and say, you know what? I was wrong. Like, you're going to have moments in that in your marriage that you need to just own it, apologize sincerely, move on. But I think this is how he interprets things, which is a bigger red flag. If you can't see that these are red flags, then what else are you not saying the truth about because you don't think it's appropriate? It's a very slippery slope.
Yeah, a lot of y'all fought for him, and I saw that. And bless your heart. But no, have you lived with a woman? It's a very clear conversation. It's a very clear question. Yes, I live with women. Yes, I have lived with women. I've not lived with someone that I'm in a relationship with. Because I think if the shoe was on the other foot, I'm just imagining that. Have you lived with a man? No, I've never lived with a man. And then two men come out. Like, would his interpretation be like, I don't think he would interpret it the same way. I just don't get. And maybe they're uncomfortable with each other that they just can't answer these random questions or these regular questions. I would love to hear from an ex-girlfriend of Michael, or I'd love to hear from his sisters. Hey, has he dated someone seriously? Has he brought someone around? Because his energy to me is like he hasn't dated much. Well, it feels like he hasn't dated much. And so he doesn't know the nuances of just communication with women.
Well, what you just said, I meant to say this with Olajuwon in there. One thing that we have to get out there is dating is different sometimes for men and women.
Right.
So we have to define what is date. Like Olajuwon, I haven't dated. So oh my God, he's never touched a black woman. But we got other words for things. There's levels to this. Yeah. So if you're dating somebody, you should just ask them tonight, what is dating me? Like, what are not the what are we, where are we going? I mean, that question, use that whenever you want to use it. But if you're dating, you could be dating somebody that's not dating you, is what I'm saying. Literally, dating them. We was just crushing a lot. We were friends with benefits. Yeah. I don't even know what we were.
I feel like he doesn't have a lot of deep interaction and connection with women, because this is a nuance that shouldn't have been a thing.
Yeah,
it shouldn't have been.
I also think there's some. I didn't like the way he continued and cut off Pastor Cal. Mm-hmm. Like when he was like, wait. Pastor Cal played it cool because I think he wanted to hear what he was going to say and explain. But I also think there's a level of an issue with authority, in a sense. I don't know. I'll see how it plays out, but I'm wondering, Like, bro,
What's there?
yeah, he wouldn't have did that to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, you're not gonna cut me off.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's your boundaries and respect, and I think he raises his tone and energy because she has boundaries, and I don't know if he deals with that well.
Oh, we shall see.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Steve and Noi. Noi annoyed me. Get it? She really pissed me off last night. She really did. Is it last night? Today's Thursday, right?
We need to open a spot called Noise Noodles.
Noi, yeah. All of them are overcooked, and they get returned.
Or they're soggy.
You leave the restaurant upset, and you walk out.
The limp noodle.
My God. You want to talk about, first of all, King Steve. And I've been getting on Steve for his lack of true explanation. On After Party, he explained, listen, I'm good. I have coin. Like,
I told you that.
You did tell me that, but we kept going back and forth about it. He thought that I thought I had a problem with him not having a job. It's not that. I love entrepreneurs. I come from entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. Like, it's the fact that he came in there throwing glitter and feathers and like, live with me, canoe with me in the wilderness. They'll create this life. And like, bro, you're getting married at first sight. She does not know you. You got to give some sort of strategy. On top of that, you're triggering her fears. She was in a refugee camp. She does not want to redo that with her kids, and she needs something a little more structured. And most people would doing this. I don't think throwing in the wild card who has no strategy or hasn't expressed it is the best. But he does have a strategy.
We'll stay on that. Yeah. So I was saying that he gave me Prince Hakeem vibes. From coming to he gave me, I'm sitting on a lot of money from savings. I know I can make money anytime. If y'all Google the average, I'm not even gonna talk about it. The average salary for his job is a lot.
It's a lot.
So he's got savings, and he's probably wanting to find, maybe I can find somebody that doesn't change if I quote unquote got it all together or I got all this money. Hold on, baby, hold on. Because I don't think he's got that much, but I know he's freelancing. He's making income. People don't need jobs. I hate when people say that. You don't need jobs. You need income. You can get that from investing, entrepreneurship, or a job. And hold on, he should have. But when getting married, you have to provide cohesion and leadership. No matter where your income is coming from, there has to be a safety net to where, hey, I got it. Well, I don't know you. I don't know. Like you and I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. You know what I can do. You know I'm not going to let us starve. And I've consistently done X, Y, Z, and I'll do what I got to do. But she doesn't have the benefit of that history to understand that that's that. So a blueprint, guys, a strategy, a plan, a vision. If you don't have supervision, you're going to follow somebody else's supervision. And if that doesn't happen, she doesn't know that she can trust you to deliver that. And that's what he has to explain to her.
Yeah. And she doesn't owe you that at the beginning. Men out there, don't test a woman like that. Don't throw stuff out there and say, this is what I'm going to do. And you need to, like, that's something that you should do with someone who, accepts that and wants to live in that life. Because that life also has its ups and downs. And it has its different roles at different times. So, like, I'm glad he finally explained it, but on After Party, but I would have loved to see the conversation where he says, what's important? What are the top 5 things that are important? She can talk about it. Here, I can provide that. I can give you that in this way. It may not be in a way that you're familiar, but worrying about money is something that we won't have to do. Now, you never know what the future holds, but that's life. But he needed to say that. Yeah. Saying that, I do this and is she not going to support my dreams? Bro,
and then his dad saying vagabond, that didn't help.
She met you 2 weeks ago. She doesn't owe you that. So that's why for this show, I was like, I don't really like it. But I love people who, jump out there and do things. I'm one of those. So I appreciate it. But I think when you come on this show, like, no one owes you anything because you meet them at the altar. So be prepared to show and prove. That's one. Noise
noodles.
We
cook them.
Girl, I'm flabbergasted.
Not flabbergasted.
I am.
I do declare. You clutching your pearls? I do declare.
Lindsay said guffaw. She was like, I'm all over the place tonight, but you're gonna tell me something about a woman who rolled her eyes and guffawed at me? I was like, I haven't heard that word in ever. But circling back, Noi.
I still don't know what you just said.
Listen, my first thought in watching Noi was, how did she see her parents argue? Because, because for Noi to present so well and so, like emotionally intelligent, appeared, and so sufficient and prepared, for her to get that upset and leave and not communicate and ignore him and post something on social media, which is so immature, oh my God, and then come back and still
double down. That's like, my biggest problem with people.
Not like come back with any type of humility. You're humiliated, but you didn't come back with any humility. And that really bothered me, because if you got upset about that, like, there's not much more, there's not much less like silly stuff than noodles overflowing.
How you gonna handle 3 kids?
Right. Like, I was blown away. And she said something to kind of double down and support. She was like, I was triggered because it's happened before. When has it happened before, Noi? Receipts. What has he said that's been so disrespectful or dismissive or whatever that's connected to this that it's like, okay. And why couldn't you communicate that? And you went ghost. It wasn't like, I'm leaving and you came back in an hour. She really was, if this is someone who's not ready for a marriage, if they respond that way, I hope that she can learn, because she has so many great qualities. But this, like, it's not just communication that makes marriage. Like, people always say, oh, communication. It's effective communication. And that's on both ends. Part of that is actively listening. Not listening to respond, but actively listening so that you can really take in what your partner is saying. The other part of that is communicating how you truly feel so that they understand in a way that they understand without it being disrespectful or nasty. And there will be a lot of those things to learn how to communicate. So I was just like, I was blown away. Why I loved Steve this episode is because he set boundaries. He gave examples of what she should have said versus what she did say, what she should have done versus what she did, how that reflects on him, how that includes their family, seeing it on social media, how now putting their business out doesn't look really good, how they can't just handle it in there, how not only she walked away, but ignored him for a long period of time, never responded, and didn't give him a chance to talk or to even say what was wrong. Or apologize. And he was like, I would apologize. He was so, I loved, he really gave like a very quick master's class on how to check your spouse real quick when they do something that's not appropriate. And you see, he set his boundaries, but he didn't get nasty about it. And he wasn't rude. He was just like, no, he said something like, do you think you should have done that, or something in that vein? And she was like, I don't think I should. He was like, no, you shouldn't have. Like, he was like, no, you shouldn't have done that. That was an excellent. It's probably the best redirect from a castmate on this show that I've seen, and it stayed in a way that they could really clean it up. And I think moving on with the bowling, or whatever they were at, she still felt a way about it, and she still felt like she was pretending, and he was kind of trying to move on. And now that's up to her, because for him to be the one who's, I think, the most offended in this situation, for him to be mature enough to say, this is what happened, didn't like it, this is what should have been done, here's my boundary, let's move on, I'll apologize. Like, she needs to get it together. Yeah. Because she will miss out.
Well, when somebody sets boundaries like that, calm, a lot of times people respond like, she's going to think twice again if she does that again. And here's the real gotcha that really people don't get when you're married. Like, you can't not communicate like that, because it's abusive. Because, oh, I need to be in myself, I need to figure my thoughts out before I say, that's BS. That's bull. You can't do that married. You have to communicate, because let's say something happened to her. This is your husband. He doesn't know where you are. He can't protect you. He can't help you. And in marriage, over time, something will happen. And I'm not trying to be negative, but flat tire. Something simple. Flat. Right. We've had car. It happens. Yeah. And you cannot not be in communication, especially if you got kids. That's impossible.
You can take your time. You could say, I need 30 minutes. I need an hour. I need 2 hours. I'll be at 6 o'clock. I'll be back by 8 o'clock. I just need some time. But you just disappear like that. Where did you see that? That's my question. Where have you seen that? Because she's been glowing about her parents' marriage, and every time she mentions her parents' marriage, she gets so emotional. But if I can recall, there was a time that I think her parents weren't going to be together, and then they figured it out. You know, that happens in a lot of marriages. They figured it out, and they've been together for the last 40 years, and she idolizes her parents' marriage. But it makes me wonder, that's mimicking some behavior, you know, whether that's because you weren't allowed to express your thoughts, so you were thought to be an internal processor because you couldn't do it when you were a kid, and so you grow up learning how to fix your problems on your own, or whether you saw that or had that interaction, and so that's like now what you've defaulted to doing. So
say these two things and we're done. I love this quote. You guys can use it. Our business ain't show business. That social media stuff, no sir.
No.
And he brought up a very valid point. His family had to see that. And you forgive, family does not.
They sure don't.
They don't, they're not in the middle. They don't get, so she made it worse for herself by doing that and wanting attention and pity. Man, stop with all that millennial bull. I'm not going to say millennial because a lot of millennials are emotionally intelligent. Let me not say that. The social media world that we live in now is not for your problems. And if you're, searching for help, that's different. But that situation is an in-house situation.
Absolutely. And most of them should be. And
next
if you
time
do,
you overcook noodles, I'm going to post it on social media. My mom can. I mean, my wife can cook, so she's not overcooking no noodles.
They know me. Okay. Last but not least, we're not gonna waste too much time on them because Alyssa and Chris. Alyssa is. I have to move on. She is dangerous because she's such a liar. And the reason that we are able to know how much of a liar she is because we have footage. But imagine not having footage, which most days...
You would think he was disgusting. And
most days you're going through without footage. You don't have the run the tape back. But she's a liar. And that's really concerning that she would grasp onto anything that would strengthen her narrative and create stories that don't exist. Just to confirm and validate her feelings. And it's just sad to see because she's dangerous. Nobody should be left in a room alone with her because she will say something happened and it didn't, and that's anything. It doesn't have to be the worst thing, but hey, my purse was there and now it's not there anymore. Because she is just, for her to come up with all this stuff, I can't believe it. I thought it was hilarious.
He's literally the nicest person that's probably been on this show ever. He wanted 1%. Just you saying I got a chance. He got 1%, I'll do 100. And she's depicting him like he's like Voldemort, like he's the worst of the worst. And I'm like, how are you seeing this? And on top of that, she takes people's what they say. How do you say that somebody's going to put in before work? He didn't say that. He said you won't be second. He just works 24/7. I'm in real estate. I get it, but that guy wanted to do it. Oh, he won't talk to me. You won't even talk to him. And so. Like you said, I personally would never be in a situation. I would never be in her presence because that type of person can get a person in trouble. I'll just say that, and you or looked at in a way that's not accurate. So that's just, and it's. I feel bad for him, but I give you 2 or 3 years, he's gonna be with somebody that saw him on the show.
Absolutely.
And he's gonna be good. And he's took it like a champ. He was like, I'm better because of it. The assessment. I do like that he talked about self-reflecting on yourself when he had to fill out all those questions. I think everybody should do that. I would love to see what the assessment is. I know you could probably create one, but it's just people should do a self-assessment, especially if you're wanting to get married and you're not married. Maybe there's a self-assessment that needs to be done, but he was great for doing that. And the thing with, one thing I have to say, and I forgot to say this, about Lindsey and the situation on the plane with Olajuwon. I just want to say that I'm glad you covered that very in depth. That was a very touchy topic. But I wanted the people to know that when those types of things happen, especially as a black man, what he's thinking is this could literally be the last day of my life. You don't realize that. But that little argument, okay, he gets tased or they grab him. He's big. He turns around. He's resisting. He could get arrested. He could go to prison for life. He could get killed. And that's the type of things that his wife was thinking about. We were thinking about as watching. And she's thinking about the victim. And she's the victim. And it's sad to see that. And even Alyssa is the victim. And that whole victimhood behavior is something that just, People have to watch out for people like that and stay away from those situations as much as possible.
Yeah, because they won't take ownership. And realistically, you can't have a relationship with anyone who's not going to be accountable. Because at some point you're going to be wrong. At some point you did do something wrong. And you have to be mature enough and invested in the relationship enough to watch it grow. And that comes with peeling back the layers, seeing that there's some parts of you that is ugly, okay? And then starting to purify and get it together and build and grow together.
Accountability is the fertilization for transformation.
All right, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching the review. Don't forget to let us know what you guys thought about this episode in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and have a great night. What do you have to say, babe?
Everybody go enjoy your noodles and have a great rest of the evening.